Championships here in Fort Worth, Texas. We are here at Dickies Arena. I am your vault and beam analyst on the live stream, but I'm so happy because I will be joined by Miss Samantha Peshek. We are fellow 2008 Olympians. We've got some NCAA championships of our own. Sam, what an exciting time. Today, we are in semifinal number 1.
You know, I woke up this morning like it was Christmas morning, okay?
Same.
The butterflies in my stomach. I know we've been out of competition mode for just a little bit, a few years, let's say, and I still get those butterflies because I remember what it's like to compete at an NCAA championships. And Bridget, you and I have competed at every level together. We're both from Indiana, and we did compulsories together, we did elite together, and the Olympic Games together, but there is nothing like the NCAA championships, right?
Absolutely. Sam, I couldn't agree more. This was such an exciting moment to wake up and know that semifinal number 1, we are here. We finally got here. The season is long, but for these athletes, today's competition is not about being perfect, right? But really, it's about advancing. And how are they going to advance?
Yeah, you just have to be top 2. There's 4 teams competing in this competition, but only 2 will advance to the final. So although Bridget and I are excited, they got their game faces on. Up first for LSU is KJ Johnson.
And this is a huge vault for LSU. Wow, that was a massive Yurchenko full. It's a 9.95 start value for the LSU Tigers. She is capable of sticking that thing cold. Took a slight hop, but an awesome start for LSU on this first rotation. And then we're going to transfer over to beam. So again, this is the vault and beam live stream. You're going to be going back and forth. And up first, this is Arkansas. This is Callista Gamiao. Very exciting for her to lead off for Arkansas.
Yeah, Kyla Ross and Jordan Weber, who's the head coach of Arkansas tag team. Can you imagine 2 Olympic gold medalists are your beam coaches? So they know a thing or two about pressure, but what both of them said about Callista is just how calm and steady and consistent. And this hand layout standing is so difficult. Bridget, could you do that?
I could not, Sam. I actually had to have a back handspring in front of that, so that just shows the difficulty of this beam routine already from the start.
Yeah, although she is typically a calm competitor, and honestly, she doesn't look nervous up there. What's really important for this beam routine is that she hits it. And if she sticks the landing, I really think it's gonna set Arkansas up to be exactly where they want early in this competition. Arkansas actually struggled a little bit on beam at the beginning to middle of season, and then they really clicked. It figured it out, hop on the dismount, but she got things going in the right direction for Arkansas.
Absolutely. And Sam, Arkansas, they're coming into this competition knowing that they're excited to be here, but they have nothing to lose here. How important is that in this semifinal number 1?
I think coming into this competition, you and I both know this, Bridget, with that aggressive mentality, you can't play to lose. You have to go aggressive and assume and expect that you're going to advance to the next day of competition. LSU up next, last minute change. Chase Brock is stepping in for Aaliyah Finnegan here.
And Chase has a huge Yurchenko 1.5 twist. Big step forward there. Lots of power in that vault, but today, again, we mentioned it's about advancing and being in that top 2 spot at the end of all 4, but those landings are so crucial, especially on vault. Chase Brock, like you mentioned, Sam, it was a last-minute change actually in for Aaliyah Finnegan. See what the judges take, which is a really crucial moment because there are 6 judges on the panel. You're going to see scores a little bit different than what we're used to seeing in a dual format. You drop the high, drop the low, and then average the remaining 4. And we are headed back over to Arkansas. And this is Maddie Jones.
And you talk about the judges and just how important. At a typical dual meet, there's usually 2 judges, but as you're progressing through the postseason, there's additional judges, which helps consistency and with the scoring. And with a subjective sport, it's really important that to note that because there are 6 judges, you're hoping for an even more accurate scoring across the board. Now I had a chance to talk with Maddie Jones yesterday at practice and how they were able to advance at regionals. They looked so confident, even though I imagine they felt a lot of pressure. And she said they really didn't. They just stayed in the bubble. Beautiful triple series.
And Sam, Maddie Jones coming after Callista's 9.85. So really strong start for Arkansas on balance beam in this first rotation.
Yeah, that's what you want to do. A really good, solid first routine in that 9.85 and above range is going to put you in contention to be one of those top 2 teams at the end of the meet. Balance check there. Really difficult jump because you throw your head back and you got to look at that into the beam really quickly to find your balance. That's a new dismount this year, and they needed a stuck landing. Coaches cannot say enough about her. She turned down scholarships to come here as a walk-on. That's how bad she wanted to be an Arkansas Razorback, and it's turning out well for them.
Back over to vault for LSU. This is Amari Drayton, the freshman that has made such an impact this season, Sam. Watching her in practice yesterday, you are in for a treat because this is one of the best Yurchenko 1.5s. She gets sky high, and let's see if she can find that landing.
And it's new this year. She's only used to doing a 1.5 and a double.
And I spoke a little soon there, really didn't go for it on that vault. You saw her take that step backwards. That is a clear indication to the judges of an under rotation. There is going to be a deduction there. So not what we're used to seeing from Amari, but like I mentioned, you're going to see 6 athletes for each team. They will be able to drop 1 score.
I think it's interesting, a lot of times people like starting on vault, but oftentimes it's hard because you have so much adrenaline at the beginning of the competition. That's why we saw athletes stepping out of their vaults, and then possibly Amari saw that and tried to dial it back. So really important that they are just rinse and repeating. You got to take the nerves into factor too.
Absolutely. We are in semifinal number 1. This is a very big competition for all 4 teams here, and we are heading back over to balance beam. This is Callie Swaney for Arkansas.
There's so many differences about this competition from regular season, but one of the most notable ones is the podium and how that affects the equipment. So here on balance beam, because the beam is sitting on a podium, it makes the beam a little shaky. So you have to be patient on your skills, and you actually have to hold your home base position, those finish positions, even longer so that you don't wobble. Great job from Callie there, hanging on to that finish position, being patient. And sometimes, Bridget, you and I know that being patient when you're nervous is hard to do.
It's a lot easier said than done, one might say.
She's doing a lovely job moving through this beam routine. Good full turn. That's a skill that you learn when you're about 8 years old, but sometimes, at least for me, it was the easy skills in pressure moments that would trip me up. Finishing back handspring, 1.5. Not quite a stick, but really clean. That'll be minimal deductions for her.
Arkansas starting off on the dreaded balance beam. It's 4 inches wide, but man, are they making an impact today.
I think it's a good event for them to start on because they can get it out of the way and then let loose. Savannah Shanehair from LSU up next on vault, and Bridget, they need a big one.
They need a big one, and when I talked to head coach Jay Clark yesterday, he said he wasn't quite sure if Savannah would be in the lineup. They have a lot of depth this season, so this is a really exciting moment for her. This is another Yurchenko 1.5 twist. They need a big one. Oh, wow, the slightest step You saw that left foot come up just a little bit. She was trying to get that stick, but man, what a vault for Savannah and this LSU Tiger team. They haven't looked like they had the energy in the first couple athletes, so Savannah capable and very able to get them back on track.
Yeah, and you know what I noticed too is the whole corral of LSU gymnasts, it looked like it lit them up. It's probably the vault that's going to bring some momentum, like you mentioned. They had some uncharacteristic landing mistakes early on with those athletes.
And headed back to beam, this is Cammie Weaver coming after some solid scores for Arkansas. Callie putting up another 9.85 right now. Maddie Jones is the lowest with a 9.8125.
And reminder, it's important for us to bring up the lowest score because 6 athletes are competing, but they get to drop the lowest score. So you want to have your scores rise and build momentum towards the back end of your lineup. Cammie is not only an excellent gymnast for Arkansas, but she leads the huddle, especially on balance beam, and she reminds this group that, hey, let's not make it a big deal, and it really has helped them mentally as a team go up and do their job. Big balance check there, good save. I actually thought she would be off. Usually we have a saying in gymnastics that wherever you look, you go. So if you're landing with straight knees and you immediately do the pike, it's really tough to stay on. That was a testament to her willpower. Getting back on track. It's important not to take that one mistake and make it contagious into multiple. She's doing a good job brushing it off. And good finish. Really a bummer on that wobble, and you can see it on her face. She was capable of a big number for them. It's still gonna be a good score, but at this stage with the competition so fierce, you want to gain every 10th you can.
And Sammy, you talked about the balance checks. How hard is it to get back when you have a balance check to get that mindset back?
It's so hard to brush it off because you know exactly what you did wrong after you finished. But quickly back at vault, if there's a few athletes that can put up a big score, it's Kaya Johnson.
And Sam, this is a big vault. This is the only Yurchenko double twist in this semifinal, #1 for this LSU Tiger team. This is a big one. Just a hop on that landing. Like I mentioned, sticks are so crucial in our sport, gymnastics, but especially on vault. We're not quite seeing the sticks, but again, today, it's all about advancing. All LSU has to do to advance is be in that top 2 spot at the end of 4 rotations.
You know, it was interesting. She's an older athlete in the competition, and your training plans change slightly. And they told me that she doesn't do any Yurchenko double folds during the week to save her body. She does 1 in warm-up, 1 in touch, 1 in the competition.
That's pretty impressive, Sam.
Excuse me, not even 1 in touch. She just does 2. 1 in warm-up, 1 in the competition. They found it's helped her with consistency.
Heading back over to beam, this is Haley Klein coming after Cammie Weaver's 9.6625.
So that is absolutely the score that they're hoping to drop here. Haley Klein is just a freshman. Oh, really aggressive series, but didn't square off her shoulders quick enough at the end. You want to get to the home base position. It's what I call a lunge or beam feet. If you're in the gymnastics world, you got to get there as sharp as possible to help you eliminate these little nervous wobbles. This is a great opportunity for this freshman to gain experience competing at the NCAA championships. She's gonna have that in the bank for years to come.
And Sam, ultimately, as a freshman, it is a very nerve-wracking feeling being here at the NCAA championships, but having her team here, this is a really big moment for her to carry on the rest of her career.
Yeah, you and I were talking about this. We competed at the Olympics before we got to college, and even as a freshman, it was more nerve-wracking and such a different type of pressure here at the NCAA championships. And the woman of the hour, Haley Bryant.
This, I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot, but this vault right here, she's one of the best, if not the best, vaulter in NCAA history right there. That was a front pike with a half. The amplitude, nobody does it like Haley Bryant. She is the 6th competitor for LSU, so that will finish off this first rotation for the LSU Tigers. And she just won the AI award, so it's equivalent to the Heisman Trophy in gymnastics, voted by college coaches as the best senior athlete in the country. Very impressive. And heading back to beam, again, this is the final competitor for Arkansas on balance beam. It is Serena Linton.
You saw head coach Jordan Weber talking to her right before she's getting set up for this routine. And it's interesting because Serena likes to tell Jordan, I'm so nervous before she goes on beam, which if I was the coach, I'd be a little nervous myself hearing that as the anchor. But head coach Jordan Weber says it really helps externalize it for her, and she likes to hear positive affirmations in return. So these coaches are, you know, play a role of a therapist and sports psychologist, if you will, to help these athletes to compete at their best.
Sam, you and I know better than anybody. Head coaches, they wear many hats. Yep, they wear many hats besides just being the head coach.
How did you like to compete? Before you went on beam, what did you need?
To be honest, Sam, I was the weird one that just stood there, danced. I always made eye contact with our team manager, which was so crucial for me. Just knowing that it was almost like that, you've got this moment. So that was something I always did. Always made sure I was ready to go.
Yeah, you and I are different.
Oh, wow.
But the artistry coming back, obviously big mistake. She is going back to repeat her leaps to make sure she gets that requirement. Very unique. It's going to be a significant deduction, but it's not a fall. Probably spooked her more than anything. And that's really a nervous mistake is what I'm seeing a little bit across the board here with Arkansas.
And Sam, just the dismount.
And great finish. I mean, she's a natural beamer, but a little mistake on those switch leap. If you're not looking at the end of the beam, you can miss your foot. And that's what we saw a little bit from Serena.
So that is the final competitor for Arkansas on balance beam. But over to vault as an individual, Lily Smith from the University of Georgia, qualifying in her freshman season. Again, here as an individual. This is a Yurchenko full. Little sloppy on that landing. You saw she didn't quite absorb that landing and had to take a couple steps backwards.
We have some landing issues on vault here today, but I think it's important to know how impressive it is for an individual to qualify. It is so tough. So the way that an individual qualifies is from regional finals, because you have to qualify as a team, but for those teams that don't qualify, if you're in that top spot, you get an all-around position. And they only take one. One on every event, one in the all-around.
And speaking of individuals, this is Amani Herring from Penn State.
It's a program that's, I think, one of the most impressive teams for me this year. Penn State, watching them at regionals, I didn't get a chance to cover them throughout the season, so seeing them at regionals was really great for me. Wow, front toss, back handspring, no problem. When you land those big skills, you want the chest to be vertical. Tough to do.
And Sam, the head coach, Sarah Shire-Brown of Penn State, has done a tremendous job with the culture of the program, taking athletes and maximizing their potential. Her and her staff really made an impact this season. And as you are seeing, from Amani here. Fabulous on balance beam.
Yeah, you're right. I spoke to Sarah yesterday too and asked her what was it. And she credits it to the student athletes, of course, and just their willpower to want to work hard. There she is. But she said the synergy with the coaching staff, everybody is finally on board, and she said we're on the right path and excited for the future.
Absolutely. What an outstanding performance in that first rotation on this vault and beam stream. I am Bridget Sloan, and I am here with Samantha Peshek. Don't go anywhere because rotation 2 will be coming up, and we are the vault and beam stream all weekend long. Welcome back to the Vault and Beam live stream. I am one of your hosts, Bridget Sloan, alongside my good friend Samantha Peshek, and we are here for the live stream on Vault and Beam all weekend long. You are tuning in to the 2024 NCAA Women's Gymnastics Championships here in Fort Worth. We are at Dickies Arena, and this is semifinal #1 underway, and right now, Cal leading after the first rotation. LSU right behind them. They are on uneven bars. Stanford headed to balance beam. Arkansas headed to floor exercise, but Cal coming in for the second rotation, Sam. They're headed to vault. This is a great event for them. They're ranked currently 6th on vault.
Yeah, what I think is interesting is LSU didn't have the start to this meet that they were hoping. They're absolutely one of the favorites. I would say Cal and LSU coming into this competition as the favorite, but they know they can't take advantage of the competition because anything can happen. But it was LSU's lowest vault score since January 26th at Missouri, where they lost that meet, Bridget. But getting things going for Cal is Maddie Williams here in that first spot on vault.
Maddie, a junior, she had a 9.825 at regionals with this vault. Really strong. That was a Yurchenko full. So we're gonna see a lot of Yurchenkos this weekend, which is that round off, that handspring entry. One thing Maddie did so well was she controlled that landing. She's absorbing the landing. An excellent start for Cal on an event that they're not quite where they want to be. They know that they have more to give, but still a strong event. The vault, after coming from an amazing floor rotation and headed back over. This is balance beam. This is Claire Dean for Stanford.
Yeah, Tabitha Yim spoke so highly of Claire and said that she's the leadoff on every event last year. She thrived in that role. Oh, side aerial layout. Man, beam is giving people some struggles early on in this competition. It's really where you see the doubt creep in. I think more than any other event, you cannot have any hesitation in your skills, in your mental approach. You have got to be rock solid here.
And Sam, balance beam, this is kind of the make or break event. We talked about it being on podium and the difficulty. It's only 4 inches wide.
It was a good leadoff routine because she made it, but she had a wobble and she took that step. So she could have been doing a little bit better, but if all the teams are showing up this way on beam, then hey, every little tenth counts.
And back over to vault. This is Kyan Mayhew for Cal coming after Maddie Williams, 9.8875. Big start for Cal on vault.
All right, I got one critique for Cal before you talk about her vault. Do you think their coach knows he is right in the way?
We didn't quite see the landing, but from what I did see, it looked like a really nice landing. A slight hop there, but that was a 10-0 start value vault for Cal. We might have to talk to him after this,
we
after this stream and let him know
that, hey, listen, I know you guys are trying to do your job, but we're trying to be part of it too.
And back over to beam after Claire Dean led off this Stanford team. Sam, this is Sienna Robinson.
Man, I'm a huge fan of Sienna's. She was a young elite gymnast, and she was that athlete that was such a trickster. She would do the most insane series, handspring, layout full on beam, and so I've been looking forward for her to be in college for some time.
Sam, those are skills that even I could not do on balance beam. And Sam, Sienna's coming after Claire's 9.6875. So this is a big moment for Stanford to get that momentum back.
Yeah, any score in that 9-6 range is something you want to drop. Solid back handspring layout. And you can tell, even though Sienna's a freshman, she really has that great natural ability on beam. Doesn't look nervous. She holds those landing positions. She was a little off balance there, but she was so quick to get to the landing position. Balance beam is not really about being perfect, but it's about the illusion of perfection. You're trying to trick the judges that you were straight down the beam. She's got a really nice flow, and one of my old teammates, Hallie Mazzette, who is part of the 2018 UCLA team that won a national title. She was the undergrad assistant there. She's now at Stanford and does the choreography both here on beam and on floor. It's been fun getting to talk to her about this impressive Stanford team.
Wow. Sam, we said that they have to get back on track. What a performance. Sienna Robinson having some fun out there.
She's comfortable.
One could say that.
Yeah.
One could say that.
There's Hallie Mazzette, high fives, and back over to vault. This is MJ Frazier, who has also been such a stud for this Cal team.
And MJ, one thing that I love about her is she's actually more comfortable doing the difficult skills, and this is a big vault for MJ and her Cal team.
Most difficult vault in the competition.
Another round off entry, double twist. Big step backwards, but one thing that I love MJ about is she's not afraid to go big. She's not afraid to do the hard skills and do the big amplitude. Excellent job. Again, the big step, that is going to be a pretty significant deduction, but she's coming after some solid scores at the 9.88, 9.875, so hoping to keep that momentum going. And back over to Stanford. This is Brenna Nolt.
I've really enjoyed watching Stanford at regionals and just seeing them. They're an unseeded team that upset a few teams to get here at national championships. And to think that they started off the year, their very first meet of the season, they scored a 193. Let me say that again, a 193. They've really had such a journey and belief to make it here. Triple series, back handspring layout.
Sam, I have to say, I love this angle because you can see whether the athlete is off and just how impressive it is to see zero balance checks, even when you might expect them coming.
Yeah, the judges don't get this view, so we'll probably see more mistakes with those toes, if you look closely, than even the judges will. Brenna's a rock for this Stanford team. They always have to tell her to go home because she's in the locker room for too long. But she said, no, it's my happy place. And that's why you're seeing this Stanford team show up so well in the postseason. That joy and care for each other and for the team, that's what Tabitha Yim right there, head coach, says sets them apart.
Outstanding job. And we are heading back to vault. This is Maya Lazan, and she did something incredible last meet at regionals. She scored the first ever postseason 10 on this event with this vault. We are in for a treat here.
Head coach Liz Crandall-Howell told me the interesting thing was that she bailed in warm-up because her steps was off, and she used to be afraid of it. So she's really worked with a sports psychologist to get her to a place to even go for this vault.
And this is a big one here for Maya. Wow. Not gonna see be a perfect 10. She did take a slight hop forward, but one thing that Maya does better than anybody, that technique is textbook.
Yeah, it's high, it's floaty, it's stretched hips all the way through the landing. Couldn't ask for anything better. Back over to beam. This is Ira Alexava. Earlier in warm-up, I asked Hallie Mazette to go over some pronunciations, and we were practicing. I wanted to really nail it, but she was an athlete that's former national team member of Russia.
And right now, Sam, Stanford looking to drop Claire Dean's 9.6875. So far, the scores are building. And we talked about it in that first rotation, and we have to talk about it again. You're seeing a panel of 6 judges on each event, so you're going to see a little bit different scoring, a lot of decimal places on this scoring, because you're going to drop the high, drop the low, and then average the remaining 4.
Beautiful back handspring layout. I love how she's so quick with her arm positions to that lunge position at the end. I think it shows confidence. I think it shows control after the skills. Head coach Tabitha Yim told me, this is not a hype team. She said, I'm just going to put it blank, but we've embraced that because they are not the team that's going to be yay raw. They can't stick their dismounts though, Bridget. Ira Alexeva coming in hot. That's going to be a big number for Stanford, but it was funny, Tabitha said, I wish at some points they were a little bit more hyped, but then I embraced the attitude and identity of this team, and that's really what's helping us throughout the season.
Outstanding, and headed back over to vault. This is Jaden Silvers coming after Maya Lazal. We have our first 9.9 in this vault rotation for Cal. That's a huge score. They're looking to drop MJ Frazier's 9.85. And that is so unfortunate for this Cal team. They are going to have to count MJ's 9.85, which, Sam, let's break it down a little quicker. If we can stay for Cal, they need to remain in that 9.85 plus. So having to count MJ Frazier, it does still keep them in the mix. They were headed into the second rotation in that #1 spot. So they are okay, but you have to wonder if the energy is coming down and they got to ramp it back up for that final competitor.
Yeah, you talk about that momentum and energy, and I can't help but think at Pac-12s, Cal has been doing so well throughout the season, but at Pac-12s, they struggled with some landings, and coaches said they went in trying to win, so they had to switch the mindset to joy and freedom, which actually is exactly what Stanford seemed like they were doing throughout the season as well.
And Sam, over to Stanford on balance beam, this is Chloe Widner, who is just, I mean, she is magnificent on every event she competes.
Yeah, that full extension on the leaps, good connection. I'm trying to find words to explain Chloe's gymnastics because it's so impressive to me. Every time she does the skills, her knees are so tight, her toes are pointed. She puts the extra exclamation point. She goes the extra mile. Her leaps aren't 180. They're clearly above 180. So she stands out in so many ways.
Not only does she do beautiful gymnastics, Sam, but she will finesse any sort of
that's
mistake.
the right word.
You saw that arm movement circle, but her body didn't stop moving, showing the judges she still has control. Very impressive.
Yeah, and to see this team have so much success this year in her final season, it's been so great. Huge gainer full. She's a gamer, and we've seen perfection from her on this event. So even though she had a little wobble here and there, we've actually seen her do that better.
Really nice job for Stanford on balance beam. An event that can give you so many problems. Well, we are headed back to vault because this is Ella Cesario, the final competitor in this vault lineup for Cal. That was a Yurchenko full. That was a 9.95 start value. Again, Cal really wanting to bank on those 10-0 start value vaults. But one thing you have to mention, Ella, the perfection in her technique. She kept those hips open, had the slightest hop. Sometimes you wonder, is it worth going the 10-0 when you can do a 9.95 start value like that?
Well, it's the risk versus reward. And here at Cal, they needed a hit vault. They didn't need a stuck vault. They needed someone to land on their feet, and that's exactly what Ella was able to do to keep them in this competition.
Back to beam. Sam, this is Anna Roberts, the final competitor for Stanford in this beam lineup.
Tabitha Yim told me yesterday that they say to each other, let's get after our cape. I said, cape? C-A-P? She said, yes. Confidence, aggressive, perform, and energy. And they continue to go back to that. Switch leap, split jump. It'll be interesting to see if the judges gave that connection. Her arms came up without her jumping off the beam, so it could go either direction. It definitely wasn't a clear connection on that leap series. She brings it back for the series. This is the most impressive team, most improved, first of all, but also most impressive to come back throughout this season. Tabitha Yim said, I wish I could say we had a positive approach the whole time, but we just put our head down and did the work. It's showing up here on beam. Even with those small wobbles and bobbles on beam, they bring it back. They don't make one little mistake, turn into a bigger deal, and that's the mark of a championship team. That's what got them here in the first place.
They don't give up. I mean, this Stanford team, no matter the bobbles, no matter the balance checks, they're not giving up, and it's showing. And not only are they not giving up, but they're sticking those landings. And on vault, as an individual in the all-around, this is Skylar Killawillam from Washington. Doesn't have her team here, but one thing I have to say about Skylar, she has not stopped smiling the entire time she's been here. An outstanding performer for Washington here as an individual competing in the all-around.
And sometimes it's cool for individuals to get this experience by themselves and then take back to their teams, hey, I was rotating with Cal. This is what I learned. This is how they communicate. This is how they trust each other and support each other. So having that knowledge and expertise is really great to bring back home.
And over to balance beam, Nikki Smith, Michigan State, a team who had an outstanding season, but upsets happen, and they tend to happen at the end of season, headed into postseason. Here competing as an individual.
I was chatting with Nikki and her coaches at warm-up and seeing if she was excited, and you could tell she said yes, but in her teeth, she wanted to make it in the all-around spot, and interestingly enough, she actually tied in the all-around at regionals. So she would have actually qualified as an all-around, but they break the tie from the highest individual event score. She was at the same regional location as Lily Smith from Georgia, who got a 9.975 on bars. So it beat out Nikki Smith, who got two 9.95s throughout the competition. And coaches were telling me that story, and they said, yeah, but have you heard the Nikki Smith on beam story? I said, I have not. She said, well, she didn't compete beam consistently. She doesn't even have an NQS score because that's how many times she hasn't been in the lineup, frankly. But the plan worked. They threw her in beam last minute to give her an opportunity to make it as an all-arounder individual if they didn't qualify as a team. And turns out she qualified on beam. So they were joking about it and said that now she's a beamer.
You can be a beamer no matter what age, no matter what you want to do in life, you can still be a beamer. And Nikki Smith, a testament to her and her ability. Head coach Mike Rowe and his staff truly changing the culture again at Michigan State. Big Ten champions this year, and
huge double back. She stuck it at regionals, and that's what earned her this individual spot here. She does it again, and if you can look in the background, the Stanford athletes are high-fiving her. These teams really adopt the individuals into their own. Nikki told me that Stanford got them a gift. They got a handwritten note that everyone signed, and they felt really welcome being part of this Stanford group.
Sam, why didn't you write me a handwritten note?
I was hoping you were gonna give me one in return. Maybe we should do that for Saturday. What do you think?
Make sure to tune in on Saturday to see if we really give the handwritten notes. Well, I am Bridget Sloan with Samantha Peshek. We are the Vault and Beam stream all weekend long. Make sure to tune in and stick with us for Rotation 3 coming up.
Welcome back to Fort Worth, Texas. We're here inside Dickies Arena for the National Championships. My name is Samantha Peshek, and I get the pleasure of hanging out with, chatting with, talking about gymnastics, one of our favorite things to do, Bridget Sloan. Thanks for joining me.
Sam, thanks for having me. I'm just really happy to be here.
I love that in this scenario, I invited you to be here. This is great. We're doing the Vault and Beam stream if you're new and just now joining us. But the important thing here is we're watching 4 teams, but only 2 can advance to the finals. Right now, we are halfway through the competition. LSU is still in that top spot with a 98.8. Cal is in that second spot, 98.775. And then Stanford and Arkansas trail. But Stanford is only behind by 0.2125. Now, you're seeing a lot of decimal places, and that's just because there's 6 judges drop the high and low and average the remaining 4. And starting on vault for Arkansas, this is Cammie Weaver. That's how you want to come back.
Again, they're in this 3rd rotation vault. Arkansas coming in 11th on vault. Not a super strong event for them, but still, they've got power. One thing they do better than anybody is the technique. Head coach Jordan Weber and her staff really do a tremendous job honing in on the details for that Arkansas team. That was Cammie Weaver leading off the Arkansas Razorbacks. And over to balance beam, LSU, Sam, you mentioned, they are leading the competition into this 3rd rotation. This is Sierra Ballard.
Ashley Natt is their beam coach. She was a former LSU gymnast. And she told me that they've been focusing a lot on heart rate, because I said, what do you work with them? You know, they have no essential built-in deductions at this point. They're rinse and repeating. What do you do to keep their mind focused and energized? And she said, we talk about heart rate and a lot about slowing things down and getting into your process. She said Sierra actually has the longest process. She wants to talk to Ashley and talk through her entire routine before she gets on the beam.
Sam, I actually had the pleasure of talking to Sierra a couple weeks back, and let me tell you, she is a woman of consistency, and she does the exact same thing. She knows her process, and it works for her, showcasing right here in this leadoff position. In this 3rd rotation, this is a challenging event that we've seen the entire semifinal number 1, the dreaded balance beam.
And she owns this leadoff spot. She's been great and new this year in this spot. That's what you want to see on balance beam, 3rd rotation to solidify your spot in the finals. They're not in the clear yet, but if you're LSU, you're trying to maximize the difference between yourself and any other team here. vault, Leah Smith for Arkansas.
And Sam, Leah has one of the best Yurchenko fulls, in my opinion, because it is a 9.95 start value. She scored a 9.95 before. Dare I say, we might see it again. One thing Leah does so well is she holds onto those landings. I mean, you saw her heels digging into the mat, those feet squeezing, making sure there's no movement. Really nice job for Arkansas in that second spot.
Yeah, and if they can keep sticking those landings, they're not doing all 10-0 vaults, but we talk about the risk reward. It might pay off because we haven't seen a team control those landings as well as Arkansas is doing with the first two competitors.
And back over to balance beam. Savannah Shanehair in this second spot for LSU. Coming after a phenomenal routine from Sierra Ballard. Sam, Sierra just went 9.9 in that leadoff spot.
The judges are warmed up, the teams are warmed up. We're gonna start seeing some big numbers in this competition. But Savannah has not been in this second spot or competing beam as consistently as the other athletes in the beam lineup. They had some trouble in this second spot, but head coach Jay Clark mentions they don't need a home run, they just need a hit. But I actually think Savannah can do a home run for them.
One thing Savannah is so good at, she's a gamer. No matter what position you put her in the lineup, she is going to maximize it and do the best job she can.
I mean, she got a 9.9 in the exhibition spot, which I think just goes to show what she's capable of. And so far, I'm not seeing any deductions in this routine. Maybe she should have been in the beam lineup all season. Next time, we'll have to tell them to call us for their lineup decisions. This is looking beautiful. There's really not much to say. She looks so calm, so confident up there.
And Sam, we talked about balance beam and how difficult it is, but one thing to also keep in mind is just the heart rate that LSU works on, but also that energy. You really have to work on controlling that energy. Wow, and Savannah ending. That was a stuck round-off double twist.
I mean, I think that's the best routine I've seen her do. I'm videotaping Dee Bro on my camera to post on Instagram in case they didn't show it, but what a great shot from Savannah, from Dee Bro, of course, longtime head coach of the LSU Tigers. And I love that she still comes and supports her team, and she is passionate. I've never met someone more passionate about LSU than Dee Bro.
Let's just say Dee is LSU through and through, forever and ever.
Yeah, Frankie Price up next with Arkansas in vault.
Another Yurchenko full here. Wow. Sam, right now, Arkansas has not scored anything lower than a 9.8875, and we talk about the risk and reward of doing those 10-0 start values. You're not gonna see the big 10-0 start values until later in the lineup for Arkansas, but again, maximize that potential. Head coach Jordan Weber so happy with how her team is doing so far, and Frankie Price, just a dart on that vault. Back over to balance beam for LSU. This is the star freshman. You might know her name, Connor McLean.
And you don't see a coach on the podium with her before she competes, and that's because she wants to go through her own process. She doesn't want comments, she doesn't want feedback. She really likes to be alone with her thoughts in order to rock this beam routine.
And Sam, Connor is coming after Savannah Shanehair, season high 9.925. So right now, LSU, you're gonna see 6 athletes compete, only 5 scores count. Right now, LSU is looking good on the scores.
Yeah, especially because Connor scored a 10 before. I knew it was Savannah's best routine she's done all season. The score reflects that, which is even harder to score high in this meet with the added judges. But what stands out about Connor is that releve position. Very few athletes work beam with releve after each skill like that. And it really makes the artistry stand out. It's an exclamation point. And it's looking really good so far. Little baby wobble on that full turn. I mean, this routine is so beautiful that it's gonna stand out because the judges saw her fight for it. Beautifully done. It's going to be a really high score for Connor McLean. Not a 10, but a high score that LSU most likely will use. She's also petitioning to get to the U.S. Classics. Not a guarantee, but they're hoping they'll let her in to get back into the elite world, which we're seeing from a few of the competitors here.
Over on vault, back to vault for Arkansas. This is Dakota Essenpriest coming after Frankie Price, 9.875. And that was a Yurchenko 1.5. That's a 10-0 start value, but she had a huge step. Right now, Arkansas looking to drop Frankie's 9.875, but after Dakota, a huge vault. One thing that I really want her to work on in the upcoming years is controlling that landing. When you've got a big vault like that, it's almost harder to control that blind landing. So really exciting moment for her to get out in the competition, but that is going to be at this moment the score they're going to look to drop. Back over to balance beam. Sam, this is Kaya Johnson coming after Connor McLean's 9.9125. Right now, LSU is not counting anything under a 9.9.
Yeah, it's interesting. I asked beam coach Ashley Knatt, what do you want people to know about this beam team? And she said, without hesitation, I think people underestimate us as a beam team a lot. And I'm laughing because we're looking at these scores, and she said 4 of these 6 athletes have scored a 10 before on beam. Kaya is one of those athletes.
I think one thing that stands out for LSU on beam is they're powerful. They're extremely graceful, but they don't shy away from being powerful on balance beam, not only in their elements, but in the artistry. And I think that is something that maybe we're not used to seeing as a whole, so you can never count LSU out in general, but on balance beam, I mean, they fight for every 10th. You saw right there.
Yeah, they're a dynamic team. They throw the difficulty. They go the extra mile. I've enjoyed watching them as a team this year. And you're talking about going for that big gymnastics that sometimes can be an added risk. I call it rinky-dink gymnastics. There is no rinky-dink gymnastics with this LSU team on any event. And Kaya's a big part of that difficulty. Wow, her foot was completely off the beam. The left foot on the round-off, but doesn't matter. Round-off double full and gets the hit.
Wow, LSU looking so strong in this third rotation. Again, to advance to the finals, they don't have to be perfect, but they have to be in that 1-2 spot in order to advance. You're seeing 4 teams compete, only 2 will move on.
And they're doing a good job of separating themselves and making it known, giving themselves a little cushion just in case.
Back to vault, this is Haley Klein coming after Dakota with the 9.7625. So that is the score that Arkansas is looking to drop, and they've got some big vaults in the final 2 spots.
And Chris Brooks, Olympian, coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks, is obstructing our view again.
We're really going to have to talk to these coaches about where they stand. But ultimately, what Haley just did was an excellently executed vault. Really great height, dynamic on that landing. You saw, I think she took a slight step. I don't think she stuck it.
Haley Bryant up next on balance beam. She doesn't want a lot of technical corrections before she competes on beam. So coaches just smile at her and say, you do you, that's it. They say that she has the best process of any gymnast on this LSU team. She brushes off mistakes and she stays in the moment, which, Bridget, you and I know how tough that is to do.
Absolutely. And Sam, we talk a lot about those mental cues. What were some of the things that maybe you talked to, maybe to yourself, or you had your coach tell you before beam?
I always had that mental routine and mental choreography for each skill, each pose, and sometimes with skills I would have a correction, push through your toes, squeeze, and then on dance I would say, and smile, and we're smiling, and pretty, and you know, anything to keep you focused. That's so impressive every time she does it. Standing front tuck. And she lands so high on the beam as well.
And Sam, I have to mention, yet again, the scores. They are pretty consistent for LSU right now. They are leading coming into this third rotation.
Wow.
Have not posted anything under a 9.9.
Haley's doing what Haley does. It's perfection. The technique, the presentation, just how easy she does these difficult skills. Man, look at Jay Clark right there is like, yep, she's on my team.
Over to vault. This is a big vault for this Arkansas lineup. This is Lauren Williams. She is a power athlete. She excels in all of her gymnastics, but I personally absolutely love watching her on floor and vault. She's gonna do a 10-0 start value, another round off, back handspring entry, 1.5 twists. Let's see if she can get the stick. Slight step, the smallest step, but one thing that, again, her experience, she's honing in on the details. Really nice job coming after Haley Klein's 9.85.
Yeah, you and I were both pausing, waiting for her. Can she hold on it? You know, if there was a camera on us the whole time, maybe we got to get that for future years. You and I were both holding our breath and tensing up because, you know, she's trying to squeeze everything she can.
And back to beam for the final competitor for LSU, Aaliyah Finnegan.
The team is just focusing on the 5 minutes in front of your face. That is what they continue to speak about the week leading up to practice, yesterday. And Aaliyah Finnegan, that handspring layout is one of the best in the entire country. How elevated she gets, she just floats in the air. It is so beautiful to watch.
And Sam, Aaliyah's coming after Haley Bryant's 9.95.
Knew it. It was gonna be a big score. Aaliyah's another athlete on their team that has scored a 10, but she's looking a little off today. Not quite as solid and grounded as we've seen her on beam before. But listen, with these scores, it really doesn't matter. This is a good practice for, assuming everything goes well on floor, it's a good practice for the finals. Wow. Head coach Jay Clark says, there's no defense on beam. We can't blitz and tackle. It's not that complicated, but it's about the mentality. So the team that can be the most mentally mature and consistent will advance, and LSU got the job done.
And over to vault, competing as an individual. Anya Smith, Arizona State. She was named All Pac-12 first team on vault, and you're gonna see why. And let me tell you, Sam, when I watched her in warm-up, this vault was just breathtaking. The height, the distance, and she stuck it cold. Let's see if she can do it. Wow. Oh my. You predicted it. Are you a genius? Or is she the best vaulter in the country? If that does not get above a 9.95, I'll say, you could not land straighter. You couldn't. Absolutely amazing. And back over to beam competing as an individual. This is freshman Lily Smith for Georgia, being adopted into that LSU program. And Sam, LSU did not count a single score under a 9.9 in this beam rotation. That's what they're gonna need to win the national championship. There's been a lot of talk on, will LSU win the national championship this year? Can they beat Oklahoma? Can any team beat Oklahoma? But for right now, we gotta enjoy the beauty of Lily Smith on beam. I was standing by her during the practice day, and she was watching Haley Bryant's front tuck, and she said, man, I wish I could do that. And me and her head coach, Courtney Kupetz-Carter, just looked at her and we said, if anyone can do beam as gracefully as you, I'm sure the grass is always greener. But the extension, the perfection, you could freeze frame any point of this routine, and it is just such a piece of art. Wow. I mean, one thing that Lily does so well is we talk about not being afraid of the dynamic gymnastics, but one thing she's not afraid of is the elegance, the artistry. I mean, from her fingertips to her toes,
but she's got those power elements like the front toss, and she lands with her chest high, which is tough to do. Oh man, that's what she did on vault too. That was gearing up to be a nearly perfect routine as well.
And that is the end of rotation number 3. I am Bridget Sloan with Samantha Peshek. We are your vault and beam stream all weekend long. Don't go anywhere because rotation 4 is coming up next.
Welcome back to the National Championships. We're heading into the last and final rotation here on the first day of competition. Of course, you don't necessarily need to be the top team, but you gotta be the top 2 team if you want to advance to the finals. My name is Samantha Peshek, and I'm here hanging out with my former teammate, Bridget Sloan. This is actually the first time that we've broadcasted together, so we're excited about that too. But let us give you a score update. LSU and California are still in that 1-2 spot. I don't know if I foresee that changing, but Stanford's in the 3rd spot, 0.45 behind 2nd, and Arkansas is a little over a point behind 2nd. What do you like so far? What are you seeing?
Sam, I just really love good gymnastics, and that is what we are going to be seeing in this semifinal 1, and especially the semifinal number 2. We are the vault and beam stream all weekend long, and we are going to start things off on vault for Stanford. This is Claire Dean.
She's used to being in the leadoff spot.
Stanford coming into this competition. They are 27th on vault, not their best event, but again, a strong event, and they will be ending this 4th rotation there.
So really, we're looking at Cal and LSU for the final day of competition. Ending on beam can sometimes be challenging, but Cal is the number 2 beam team in the country. They've gotten as high as a 49.825 on this event. And in my opinion, it has a lot to do with Andy Lee, who you're looking at right now.
Wow, just a calm competitor. And when we talked to Liz earlier, she actually mentioned how important it was and how special to end on balance beam, because your nerves are so dialed in. You're a lot more relaxed. They're really looking forward to this rotation and ending on balance beam.
Yeah, and she said, the leadoff for me is not really about getting a high score. It's about setting the tone and making the rest of the lineup feel comfortable. Andy does such a nice job of that. And I asked her when her process starts. When does she start getting ready for beam? And she said it usually starts on the event before, which I thought was interesting. And she said that both her and MJ actually lay down on the ground, Bridget Sloan, to get themselves ready. They've been doing it since club to help them with their breathing. Hey, I think it's bizarre, but hey, look,
you gotta do what you gotta do.
If you can do a routine like that, stick the landing, man, that's what's working for them. Would you ever lay down in a competition?
I would sit on the floor sometimes, but it wasn't to prep, it was more so because I was tired. I believe that. Back over to ball, and this is Claire Dean. That was Amanda Zhang that we saw first.
Working on those landings. Saw the pike hits at the end. So the judges will most likely, not most likely, they will deduct for that. When you land, you want your chest in that vertical spot.
And this is an event, again, for Stanford. They're coming in, they know it's not their best event, but it is still an opportunity for this team to grow, to build that confidence, because they have had a really remarkable season all year long, and this is just kind of the cherry on top being here in this semifinal number 1.
We talk about laying down, and head coach Liz Crandall actually told me that she now lays down. She was inspired by her athletes, and I thought it's just really interesting how different athletes like to prepare for this event.
I like that. This is Madeline Williams for Cal coming after Andy Lee, 9.875.
Nice front aerial to a split jump. This team has been battle-tested in competition, and the last 3 weeks, they started with a cold set. So cold set basically means you get no warm-up. So you're doing your hair, you're brushing your teeth, you're walking into practice, and all of a sudden you're saluting to do this beam routine right here. And she feels like it's really prepared them well. She said, I don't need to know that they can do that, but it's more for them to not overthink the warm-up. And if they have a bad warm-up, just brush it off, because as we know, beam is such a mental event. And Sam, you mentioned the cold sets, and it really has to be such a confidence boost to know that if you can go in and perform a beam routine like that. Oh, there she goes. Tiniest step there for Maddie Williams, but to know that you're capable of that, you can do a beam routine no matter what. Yeah, they're prepared, and what I expect to see from this Cal team is that they're just gonna be on autopilot. And over to vault, this is Brenna Knoll for Stanford. Right now, Stanford in that 9.7 range, really looking to break into the 9.8. That would be a really strong score for Stanford on vault. Definitely capable here. Really nice. That was a full twisting Yurchenko pike off. You saw that full twist on the vault, and the one thing that she does so well, and I watched her in warm-ups or in practice yesterday, was the shoulders. She keeps those shoulders tight so that when she hits the vault, she just bounces and gets that block. Really nice job in controlling that landing for Brenna. And over to balance beam for Cal. This is Ella Cesario coming after Maddie Williams, 9.8875. There you see head coach Liz Crandall-Howell giving her that last-minute pep talk, and she really was overemphasizing to me how much work they've done with a sports psychologist. And Bridget, I want to talk about this because I thought it was interesting. And the sports psychologist talks to them about their breathing activation number for each event. So they said for vault and floor, the activation number is about an 8 out of 10. And on beam, the activation number is about a 4 and a 5. And I asked, can you give me context? And she said a 2 is walking on the beach and you're ready to jump in the water, but you're enjoying the scenery. But a 4, which is what she's hoping to see from Ella right here, is that you're ready to see your friends go dancing, you're excited, but still controlled. And maybe she was not at an activation number 4 because it looked like she just had too much juice there and didn't square up her hips on that lunge position. So for me, the 3 rules of beam, if you want to never wobble and never fall on beam again, you got to keep your eyes at the end of the beam, you got to find your arms, and you have to go to home base. That's the safe position. And the lunge is the best one. But if your hips are turned out, you're not in the correct home base position.
And it looked like Ella, she wasn't that confident in that series. You saw her really question that finish. No question there, though, sticks the dismount, but this is definitely the score that Cal is going to have to drop.
Yeah.
You're seeing 6 athletes, only 5 scores will count, and Cal right now sitting in a really, dare I say, comfortable spot, but they were very comfortably in that second place position going into this 4th rotation, and that's all they have to do. You have to be in that 1-2 spot.
I bet they don't feel very comfortable right now.
Probably not, but over to vault, this is Chloe Widner.
She's the superstar of this team at the regional final. She was running around saying, guys, save every 10. And that earned their team a place here.
And what a competitor. Yurchenko full, really a gamer in this vault lineup for Stanford. So important. Saving every 10th, because you never know what can happen in gymnastics, especially at the NCAA championships. Back over to beam. This is the one and only MJ Frazier for Cal. Head coach Liz Crandall-Howell giving her those last minute pep talks.
I asked head coach Liz, what separates Cal on beam? And she said, well, I really put a lot of thought and emphasis on finding something unique about each person, whether it's a skill or it's a pose. And when they come in, I try to amplify that. So you're gonna notice she works on the seamless transitions from their dance elements into their acrobatic elements. So there's no start and stop, there's no pause, but a complete performance. And that's a big focus for this Cal team on beam.
And one thing that I have to say, Andy Lee started off with a 9.875. Maddie, 9.8875. Ella, they will be dropping that score. She did have a fall, which is a 5/10 deduction, but they have a very strong final three competitors on this beam rotation. So you have to wonder, this is when it really counts as to how are we going to get our team back on track?
I've been able to watch MJ since she got to college, and she just seems like such a mentally sound, mentally tough athlete. And when I look at her, it's almost as if she does better when there's more pressure on her. I was actually like that as an athlete. What about you, Bridget?
I was like that, but I didn't like it. You know, it's one of the, it was really challenging.
I loved it.
I did not love being under the pressure, but man, it is a moment that you can really thrive in. And this is a huge opportunity for MJ and her team. And slight balance check there, Sam.
Yeah, you don't want to have any doubts. Hold those landings. Remember, you're on podium, so you have to remember to be patient and hold your finish positions 1 second longer than you would in practice. It's easier said than done, right? If we could just do beam by talking here on the mic, then it seems pretty easy.
But when you are in these situations of coming after a fall, what does that mindset look like?
You're just wanting to not think about that, right? You can only think about one thing at a time. You cannot have two thoughts at once. So if you're thinking about, I'm coming after a fall, I need to hit this routine, don't fall, chances are it's not going to be your best. You want to stay in your mental preparation and continue with your mental choreography you use every single day at practice.
We're heading back to vault.
This is Ana Paula Gutierrez.
Chloe with the 9.85, so Ana Paula set up for a good score here. And they stuck. That was a Yurchenko 1.5. Really nicely done. That's a 10-0 start value for this Stanford squad. Hugs all around.
That's the way to get the job done.
I love the excitement and just the passion that Stanford has in everything that they do. Back over to beam. Sam, this is a crucial routine. This is Maya Lazan. If you want anyone in your lineup coming after a fall, it's MJ, Maya, and then the sixth competitor, Gabby.
Yeah, but this TikTok right here, that's what this element is called. If you've never done gymnastics before, I think it looks hard. And if you have done gymnastics before, you know how hard it is. And that actually gets her no extra tense. So you're just adding a little bit of risk for the cool factor. And so I personally love that because I think it adds originality. But when you're in a bench and you need to make this routine, I think it will make you sweat just a little bit. Wow, solid triple series. She had no question marks. She's an athlete that's naturally up and has a lot of energy, so she has to do a lot of things to bring her heart rate down before she competes on beam, and whatever she's doing, it's working.
She is so calm.
Yeah, she looks so calm.
Beam. And just one thing though, calm and confident.
Yeah.
Two things you have to have on balance beam. In the dismount.
Wow. Talk about getting the job done. She went for it. She was aggressive. I mean, that was stunning. Exactly what they needed to do. Wow.
That was impressive.
Very impressive. It's the details that stand out for me about that Cal team on beam.
And back to vault, the final competitor for Stanford. This is Anna Roberts. I watched her in practice day yesterday. She looked strong. Again, final competitor for Stanford. 4th rotation. You gotta give it your all here. Oh! Yurchenko
Back to back.
1.5 stuck cold. I did not see her stick a single one in warm-ups, but man,
Talk about a gamer.
making it count. Oh.
For the last athlete in your lineup to go out like that, I mean, storybook ending for this Stanford team. Coming in here, earning a place to compete day 1 NCAA championship, starting the year with a 193. What a celebration moment for them.
This Stanford team should be nothing but proud of what they've accomplished and what they will continue. This is going to help that program in ways that they didn't know possible. But back to beam, Sam, this is the final competitor for Cal in this beam lineup in Gabby Perea.
And this is the most important routine of the entire evening here. She has got to hit this routine in order for Cal not to count a ball.
And Sam, Maya put up a huge 9.95. Slight balance check there. You saw those arms circle.
And I'm looking at the scores right now. Even without Maya Ladon's score, their team score is still beating Stanford, who is done with their competition. We'll just have to see what Arkansas is finishing with. But you know, Gabby has no idea that they've already qualified to the next day. This is a really good routine and experience for her to be in, to be a little bit more battle-tested if she wasn't already before.
Absolutely, and what a moment. Huge dismount.
Wow.
Incredible job. And Cal coming into this competition last year, they were outstanding all season long, came into the semifinal and just couldn't get the job done. So what a comeback for Cal.
And they're going to day 2, the NCAA Championship Finals. Cal is one of the 4 teams. First one to lock it in, and LSU is next.
Back to vault, competing as an individual. This is Emma Silberman from Maryland. She had a 9.95 on this vault at regionals, which is how she made it to this vault lineup.
She came into college with a layout, and then they played with this vault. And so coaches right there, they're just so proud of her. He was telling me she went from a walk-on to full scholarship, and now she's the #3 all-time scorer for Maryland.
That is what I love about gymnastics, is just how much you can improve from the moment you set foot on a campus. Anywhere you go, there is always room to improve. And just a testimony, Emma and her Maryland team, again, another outstanding program on the rise. But over to balance beam, the final competitor from Washington, Skylar Killawillam.
You're doing a really lovely job pronouncing her last name. I talked to head coach Jen Llewellyn how to say her last name. She said, yeah, you can just call her Killer Whale. That's what we do. We call her Killer Whale. She is the ultimate beam queen. You're gonna notice she has a really beautiful toe point, and all of her split positions are so oversplit. Front aerial, back handspring layout. That was actually my series in college.
Pretty difficult series there, Sam. You are the beam queen.
Love to bring the difficulty. And I really like to recognize it. I think that's why I like watching beam so much, because there's so many intricate details of what you have to do in order to give that illusion of perfection on beam. Finishing side aerial, 1.5. That hop on the dismount, biggest deduction I saw throughout that routine. She's an all-around competitor, so great way for her to end this meet.
Outstanding job. And Sam, what a semifinal #1 for Cal, for Stanford, for LSU and Arkansas. Outstanding performances from all 4 teams, but only 2 will be advancing, and it is going to be LSU and California. They will be competing on Saturday for a chance to be crowned the national champions.
Well, without Kaya Johnson's final score, LSU is bettering a 198, and Cal, like you mentioned, is that second-ranked team with a 197.7125. Wasn't a perfect meet for them. They had a fall-on beam and some landing issues on vault, so I actually think it's better not to have a perfect meet on day 1 because you still got some in the tank for the finals. And
Absolutely.
You're looking at all smiles from Liz Crandall-Howell, head coach in that Cal team, and I bet they're thinking the same thing.
Well, and it's one thing to keep in mind that when you don't have that perfect day, it makes you remember what is next, what that future routine is going to look like and what you want it to look like. And that wraps up rotation #4 on the vault and beam stream. Make sure to join us for on the stream for semifinal #2. I am Bridget Sloan with my best friend, Sam Peshek. We are going to be talking gymnastics all weekend long. You won't want to miss us. Make sure to tune in for semifinal #2. See you there.